Welcome to the Scale Model Club, and on this week's show, really great. Hello, welcome to the Scale Model Club, and on this week's show, the Fokker FW 190. So here we have the box. Nice box art on the front. Nice box art on the back. You get this is a starter kit, so you get all the paints in it, and or some of the paints and a paintbrush, some glue, everything you really need to complete the model. On the back of the box here, you can see the painting instructions and the instructions on where to put the decals. Let's have a look inside the box. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for subscribing. Make sure you like and subscribe this video to see more videos if you're new. Let's have a look inside this box. So we get a bag of glue and paints. These are most of the colours you need to do the aircraft. I mean, if you want to go a little bit mad, but you've got enough there to do the vehicle. So first up, we'll have a quick look at the instructions. Paintbrushes are really good. The Humble paintbrushes, I think it's a number 1 you get, or a 0. But they're not a bad brush. I always keep them. Standard Airfix instructions. A little bit of information about the aircraft itself if you're interested, and then very clear, nicely printed instructions. These are the safety parts and also your diagrams for the little symbols that are in the instructions, like what to cut, what not to cut, where to drill and where not to drill. They're really good instructions on Airfix, pretty clear, pretty precise. Although there's not lots to do on these little 172 kits. So here we have the wings that go together. It's a pretty standard fighter jet, to be fair. Cockpit, fuselage, wings, tailplane, wheel arches, wheelbase, should I say, undercarriage. There we are. Got the right word in the end. This is quite a new kit. I don't know, I've never built the FW 190, but I think this is a new kit, or fairly new, should I say. It's probably like mid 90s or something. But anyway, it's one of the newer kits, should I say, that I'm used to, with the nicely moulded panel lines on. A lot of people moan about because they're too deep, but don't really bother me. Decals are nice. Don't get so many decals with these kits because it is the starter kit, and there's only one paint scheme, so you tend to only get a limited amount of decals, which I don't have an issue with either, because a lot of the time you can't even see the silly little ones they give you. Obviously, if you are really into your models being as accurate as they can, it's a little on the disappointing side, but so here we go. We've got one clear plastic sprue which is in its own bag. That's always nice to see, so it doesn't get scratched. Let's have a quick look. Nicely moulded. No marks on it, no ridge lines, which is quite important because it's almost, I wouldn't say a bubble canopy, but it's a very large canopy for, there's a lot more glass in there than there was in the old the old Messerschmitt. Fuselage sprue, no flash, nicely moulded, plenty of panel lines, a lot of detail. I like the fact that the engine there is in a couple of parts, so it's that's going to look quite nice. Sprue's got the cockpit, the upper wings, the fuel tank, and the pilot if you want to use him. I'm going to boo this model with the cockpit open, so I'm probably not going to use the pilot. plenty of detail in the undercarriage bays. It's a nice kit, all in all. Nicely moulded. I look forward to building it. Never done one before. It's the lower half. Again, exactly the same. Nicely moulded out of the standard grey plastic. Nice. Yeah, looking forward to that. Looks like it's going to go together quite nicely. And like I said, make sure you keep hold of the box because that's your painting instructions. I do like the box art on the front. That's just pretty dramatic. So standard stuff. Here we go. Cutting the plastic from the sprue, cleaning it up with a bit of sandpaper or your knife. Be careful with your knives. Make sure we don't want any cutting. And because we've all seen this before, I'll speed this up a little bit. So what I decided to do at this stage was obviously I've mounted the cockpit on some blue tack. That should help me hold it while I paint it. I then decided to move on because I think the next job is to actually glue that within the fuselage. But obviously you've got to paint the inside of the fuselage. So I left the fuselage and moved on to the next stage, which is the wings. So we fitted the exhaust to the underside there. I think they're exhaust anyway. And decided to put all the little extra bits onto the wing before I then paint the inside of the wing, inside of the fuselage and the cockpit all that same dark grey colour. Sorry there's been such a long wait between this and the last video. Just wanted a bit of a break after the work I did on the Remembrance Day builds because it was quite long. Yeah, so that's my standard. I have changed my airbrush needle to a 0.4 because the 0.2 was worn, very worn. I need a new needle and set, so what I've done is I've turned the pressure down a little bit. It's a little bit of a wider needle, so basically you get a wider spread, but if you still want to do very delicate work, I can move it closer to the model. But I do tend to use the airbrush more for large coverage than I do for detailed work, and that's mainly because of my talent. I'm not very good with the airbrush. So this is the Army Painter Dark Wash, which is almost a black, but it's although it says a wash on there, it's a lot more like a filter. So if I paint the entire thing rather than trying to get it into little areas, I painted the entire thing that colour. It just dulls the whole thing down. And if you give it a couple of seconds, let it dry a little bit, you can then wet yourself a cotton bud and pick up some of the pieces that are a little bit pulled in the areas. It's also an acrylic wash, so it's, you know, you can clean all your brushes with water. I found this fuselage very fiddly to get together. I don't know if that was just me, but I ended up gluing sort of the back end and holding that together. The cockpit then squeezes into the underneath, and it just didn't want to go. I sliced the sides down a little bit, sanded it, and I couldn't get that to go in there very nicely, but in the end I got it to where I was happy with it, glued it in place and held it for a certain amount of time with the pegs. But it wasn't a very nice fit, I don't think, myself. But whether I've done something wrong, I wasn't sure. But obviously after gluing the inside, running the glue down the insides as well, just to keep it all together, and obviously the front there not glued together. And I also there's a side truss, as you used to call it, that goes in the side there. So I popped that in, glued that in place with the extra thin, held that together, glued that in place. So this took a while because it just did not want to stick together. So in the end, I think I wrapped some tape around it. And that was in order just to keep it all in the right place, because it just, as good as the kit is, that fuselage just did not want to stick together. Not 100% sure why. I struggled with the wingtips, squashing the two wingtips together, because they didn't seem to want to go. But as I found out later on in the build, I've actually glued the machine guns slightly in the wrong place. So that's why they didn't fit together very nicely. But in the end, I persevered, squished it all together, and it went okay. So we'll just leave it with all the pegs on to hold it together. So these are the machine guns going on the front. That's quite a nice fit. Held it in place, ran some glue around it, and that stayed there. Tailplane goes on, and then as you can see there, I've already cut out those two. I need to learn all these. Do you know what? I've been modelling aircraft for so long, and I've no idea what any of these bits are called. Ailerons? Is that the ones at the back? Please message in and correct me. I'm sure someone will. Anyhow, so to fit the fuselage to the wings, that's also a very nice fit. The back didn't really want to follow, but it's quite a curvy plane, strangely enough. So we just ran the glue around it, a couple of pegs, hold it in place. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Okay, so I've masked up in the usual way the cockpit. Painted the whole thing in the light in this grey colour. Now these aren't the actual colours that I have for the F190. These are what I had in my cupboard because I couldn't get out and get any. So it's a little bit darker than I wanted. So what I decided to do is for a bit of a change and for give it a go, I then painted inside the panel lines, as you can see, a slightly lighter grey colour. And I'm hoping this gives me quite a nice panel line look. So I've taken a lot of, so I've moved the air pressure down so there's not as much paint coming out, and just fill in the gaps with some slightly lighter colour. And once I've done that, so you've got lots of little light squares on the dark grey, I then airbrushed really lightly over the top with the original grey, just to help it blend it all together. I thought it came out really nicely. I was really happy with it, and I'm quite happily going to give that a go on some other aircraft, because the effect I got out of it was really nice. Annoyingly, I don't think I've taken any pictures of the underside, which did come out, but I did do that over the whole aircraft. A little bit on the fiddly side. I think you're probably better off to colour your panel lines in, but you can see there where I've created a darker panel line without actually using any dark paint. It's a nice effect. On the undercarriage there, I've used the closed undercarriage parts of the kit, just held in place with a blue tack so that you can mask up the wheelbase. So that was that fiddliness done. So this is the top half, masking the top half up. The top half is I sprayed all of the bottom and the little, the lighter grey, the darker grey, and then did the top half in two different dark greys. I can't remember what the two greys were I used now, but anyway, I also used the blue tack along the sides so that you've got a nice feathered effect. If you use the blue tack, because of the roll of the blue tack, your paint, and if you hit it straight on, the paint sort of misses where you want to go, but it does give you a nice sort of almost like a painted line that a lot of German aircraft seem to have down the side. It also works for camouflage on others, but I'll show you that. We'll do that on another video. So then I painted the propeller and the propeller spinner black. I then fitted that really awkward decal. That's an awkward decal to get done. That is that spiral on the spinner. I'll show you this quickly. So put the decal into your warm water. Use the mark fit on the side there. Here we go. Sorry, the camera's a bit shaky. That's me knocking the board. So a little bit of that on the model before you start. That way, when you put the decal on, you've got a little bit of movement, and it also helps it suck it down to the base a bit further as well. So there we go. That's sliding around the backing paper. We'll slide that on to where you want it on the model, and because we put the mark fit on first, you can then slide that around to the exact space that you need it. As you can see, because it's not quite in the right position. I just use my knife here because it was the first thing I had to hand, but you don't really want to use that because you end up cutting the decal. But anyway, you can move it about with your fingers into see exactly the spot you want it in. So we'll take off the masking tape now. I've given it a coat of clear and let that dry, and then I painted the entire thing with that Army Painter's dark wash. And like I said, because it's more like a filter rather than a wash, which means it's not as dark, but what you do get is a nice little dusty effect. So I'll take the masking tape off the canopy there. trying to do it without taking any extra paint off. So all I've got to do is brush paint that little bit on the top there that's still in primer, because obviously it was all masked up. And we're pretty much there. Now with the decals, I did actually ruin that that wing decal. I should have really put that on camera, because I think a lot of people would like to see you ruin decals, and in the end I had to find another one from the box to go in there. Like I said, so once the masking tape comes off the canopy, we're pretty much there. A few little bits of touch up. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.